Intimidation is another tactic on the power and control wheel. And this particular tactic walks with him wherever he is in the home with the family. It's generated by the violence that he's used in the past, how he's instilled fear in the family due to other behaviors. It could be kicking the dog. It could be actual slapping his wife or his children. But the intimidation piece of it is really linked to his ability to overcome anybody else's resistance in the home for what he wants to have happen. And sometimes it even plays out in ways where he doesn't intend it. So for example, he's in the kitchen and he's just reaching into a cabinet to get a plate. And he reaches up and opens that cabinet and she's standing near. She may flinch because she doesn't know if that gesture means that she's going to get hit or if he's actually just going into the cabinet. That's how that intimidation works. It can be something as subtle as a stare across the room, or it can be something where he's actually in her face, screaming, threatening, using threatening gestures that he's going to be violent to get her to submit. So, without intimidation, it's very difficult for him to achieve some of the things that he wants in the house. Like say if he wants a clean house, he's not going to beat somebody typically every time he wants a clean house. What he's going to use is intimidation. That's where he's going to begin. So he's going to get in her face, he's going to tell her what she's doing wrong, and he's going to do it in a way where she understands there's no way to overcome what force he may use to get her to submit. So then at that point, as a woman, she's standing there thinking, all right, do I want to do it this time and just avoid the consequence? Do I want to leave because this kind of thing is never going to end? Or is today a day where I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to push back? And these are the only options you really have working with somebody who believes they get to dominate you. And this domination not only includes what he wants his partner to do, but also what he wants his kids to do. So he becomes the main disciplinarian for the children. And how he does that is way more severe than typically what kind of discipline the mother dishes out. And so when she comes into a room by herself and the kids are doing something they're not supposed to, the struggle she has is that she tells them to stop and they just ignore her because she really isn't the reference point for consequence in the home. He's now established himself as one. And the real crazy-making frustration that women talk about is that they do everything they can to parent their children, guide them in a direction, get ignored, and then he sees this and blames her for being a bad parent because when he does it, they listen. When she doesn't, they don't. And what he's blind to is that he's taken literally her ability to parent from her by making him such a threat in the house and using intimidation to get his way, both with her and with the children. Emotional abuse is another tactic on the power and control wheel. This particular form of abuse is something that happens usually more often than the physical violence does, because it's his way of getting her to understand that she's less than. He believes in his head that he has a right to dominate her. He believes that he's superior to her. He wants her to believe the same thing, and part of how he gets her to believe he's superior is by constantly putting her down. So the kitchen's never clean enough. The dishes are never done the right way. The kids are never disciplined correctly. You don't even go to the store on the right road. It takes you too long to get to the kids' school and back again. I mean, there's literally nothing that she does right, and he's constantly using emotional abuse as a way to get her to believe that not only isn't she worthy, but literally she couldn't survive on her own without him. That she needs his superior thinking, abilities in order to even survive. This has come to me many times when working with men who are violent and then talking to their partners. And, an example would be a woman who raised 6 children on her own. He literally didn't do anything to help raise these kids. He didn't even work. She held the job. She made the money. And when he first was put in jail and she was alone with these kids, her response was, I don't think I can possibly make it without him. He contributes so much. Now, as advocates, the advocates knew that that wasn't the case. They knew that she was, running this house and keeping it together, and that he was really detracting from all of it. But she didn't know that, because he had so convinced her, so diminished her, that she didn't believe in herself. Now, 8 months later, when he's still in jail, she comes into the building and says, I don't think I actually need him in the house. I make the money. I raise my kids. I attend to all their needs. I'm not sure what he's actually done in the last 10 years to contribute to this home. She came to that understanding once she had the space to actually prove to herself that she could make it. So this emotional abuse takes the form of a lot of name calling, not just putting her down and her choices down, but also name calling. So I've read police reports for years and years and years, hundreds of police reports. I've yet to come across a police report where an officer is interviewing a man who has beaten his partner, and he refers to her by her given name. He refers to her as a cunt, a whore, a bitch, a slut, all these different names, but never her name. And when we work with men in class in a rehabilitation effort, one of the group rules is that they have to call their partners by their name. There are men in class who refuse to participate because they will not use her given name, because it's a point of respect, and they can't extend that to their partners because they don't believe that she's actually equal to them. This is the depth of that entitlement, that dominance that they carry into the home and into their relationships with women. So although the women say that the hitting causes a great deal of fear and a great deal of pain, it's the emotional abuse, that constant diminishment of who they are as women, and the name calling that gets associated with it, that is some of the hardest for the women to overcome, because they literally lose themselves in this notion that they are something other than who they believed they were before they met him.